When we create our brand guidelines manual, this will be a very important part of the brand guidelines. So our homework that we're doing in this section, when we come to do our brand guidelines manual, 90% of the work is already done, and it's just all of us putting everything we've done together. So this seems intense, but please hang with me. Once you go through this entire process once, you'll be able to do this with clients and charge so much more than what you're charging now, because you're able to add so much to the process. So here's our 4 primary colors. And what I want to do is I want to be able to select and identify each color with numbers and identifiable stuff. So there are 4 main color profiles we want to select. That's RGB, so we want to have a digital version and find out the numbers for that color. We want to have a CMYK, so that'll be anything for print. We want to have a print profile colors. We want to have our web hex code number. So whenever the web developer goes to create the website, they have all of these numbers, hex code numbers, to be able to extend the brand outwards. Lastly, it's optional, is a Pantone color. So it's nice to have a matching Pantone color for each color. Pantones are special inks when you get printed with offset printing process, which is using CMYK. You can add a 5th color plate. So there's 4 color plates in CMYK: cyan, yellow, magenta, and K equals black. K is black. But with Pantone, you're adding a 5th color plate that is printed on your object or on your printed item. And it's the same color. It's guaranteed to be the same color every time they use that. So you can have a specific color like Tiffany blue. The company, the jewelry company Tiffany, uses this beautiful Tiffany blue. They have a Pantone color assigned with that blue, so they can have that same blue consistent throughout all of their printed projects. And it's not always necessary because not all clients can afford the extra costs it takes to create a Pantone color. Each Pantone color you use in a print job is an extra cost. It's an extra plate. So if you have 5 Pantone colors used on a CMYK print project, the CMYK, that's 4 printing plates for inks. This is how they apply the ink onto your printed project. You would add 5 more. So you'd have 9 different color ink plates that would be printed on your project. They have to create these big metal plates that come down and stamp that color. So it's a lot of extra costs involved. So usually larger companies will be consistent by using Pantone colors, or they'll just use 1 or 2 Pantone colors in a big large document, and they'll do everything in 1 Pantone color or 2 Pantone colors to keep cost down. So we're going to discover which ones those are. So here's our 4 main color swatches that we came up with. So it's really easy to identify CMYK and RGB because you can just double click on the swatch down here and you can easily identify which colors those are. Also, hex code is here. So I would just copy my hex code and paste it on the side. I'd also find my CMYK color inks, which is good. Sometimes you'll have it where you pick a color and it's 18.5%. And we don't want to have any of that. We want to have nice, even, rounded numbers. So just kind of round it to the nearest number and just have nice numbers, easy numbers to remember. Same thing, RBG is right here, RGB. You have your RGB right here that you can type in. The only thing missing is Pantone colors. So there's a little trick to find Pantone color match pretty quickly. And it's going to take bringing it into Photoshop. So I'm going to open up Photoshop. I am just going to bring this in really quickly. Whatever document I have open, I'm just going to bring it in. And I'm going to get the eyedropper tool. I'm just going to sample that color, just clicking and sampling that color. Now I can double click the swatch in Photoshop, and there's a really neat thing called color libraries. So I'm going to go to color libraries, and it's going to load all of my Pantone inks and their associated number. So I wanted to have all different kinds of Pantone. Some are coated, some are uncoated. And coated means there's a certain glossy coat that goes on top of it. So it depends on if you're getting like a glossy print or if you're getting a matte finish, which would be uncoated. But I like to stick with kind of a standard Pantone plus solid coated. So I'm just going to do a Pantone solid coated. and it's going to automatically select the closest Pantone color. It's going to highlight it for me. So now I know it's 703C. That is the Pantone color I would use if I wanted to select that. So Pantone 703C. So if I go back up here, if I wanted to make this a Pantone color, if I want to assign this as a Pantone color, so instead of being CMYK, I want to have this be printed as a Pantone color. I'm going to spend that extra money to get it printed. We're going to get your swatches panel, and we're going to go down to libraries. And in Adobe Illustrator, this is where the Pantone numbers are kept, is in your library, little icon right here. And we're going to go down, they have a special one called Pantone. And you're going to find that by going into color books. So if you go down to library, color books, you'll be able to load your Pantones in. So if we wanted to do coded, right here, Pantone plus solid coded, we can bring that in and type in our number, which was, let's go back to Photoshop, it was 703C. 703C, so 703C, I believe that is it right here, 703C. And now it's assigned that Pantone color. That's the closest Pantone color to the CMYK color we came up with. So just like that, when you get this printed, anything that you assign this swatch right here is the Pantone color. And I can always drag this into my color palette too, so I can easily access my Pantone colors. I wanted to talk about Pantone because I have a lot of students ask questions about that. I don't use Pantone colors a lot, but if I do a big, large corporation and they have Pantone colors as a part of their brand guides and their brand colors, I'm going to probably need to stick with Pantone. So if I ever needed to assign and find a Pantone color, that's how you do it. So I found it in Photoshop, found the number, and I'm able to assign it using the color books in libraries, color books, and then I selected whatever Pantone color booklet it's from, and that's going to be solid coded. I am going to move through all 4 of these and make sure I have the right numbers. Now we're going to create a flexible color palette. So what I want to do is I want to create a few varieties of this one color hue. So I'm going to create a new box. It's going to make it a perfect square, and I have this as the same color, and what I want to do is I want to double click, and I can either add white, I can add gray, I can add more saturation to the color by using my hue cube. So what I want to do is I want to add a little lightness to it. So I'm just bringing it over more toward my white. So you almost kind of have a pink color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a duplicate, and I'm going to do the same thing, double click, and even go lighter. And I'm going to go lighter. And I'm going to go really light because I want to have some really nice off-white options. These are kind of where your neutrals are going to start to come from. Your neutrals are going to be coming from one main color hue. I can do the same thing with this darker, this is black, actually has a little bit of blue in it. So if I double click that, you can see how this is from, originally this is the most saturated hue right up here. And you can see where it has a little bit of blue in it. So I'm going to get the eyedropper tool, sample it, move it over, and you can even go darker too if you have a really light color. You don't always have to keep going lighter. So I'm going to bring in, keep blue, but bring it just a little bit lighter in color, just a little step higher. And I can even go darker as well with this. So if I wanted to take this darker color and go deeper, I can. Maybe add a tiny bit more blue. So just getting some complementary colors. So we can go dark to light to maybe, we can even go darker and do a very dark, almost a black as well. So it just depends on what you need for flexibility in your brand. You can see what I ended up developing here. We also titled the colors. So I think when you use brand guidelines, it's nice to have a name to your color. Instead of having just red and orange and black, we have burnt marshmallow, raw salmon. We have kind of some kind of name that helps us better identify the color. So in this case, I did raw tuna, raw salmon, raw yellowtail, stone gray. So those are kind of some color names. And we can even name some of the lighter colors too. So we have a system here We have the pure hue, which is raw tuna. And then we have tuna light, tuna lighter, and tuna lightest. So kind of the names match kind of where it's going from the hue. Same thing with raw salmon, salmon light, salmon lighter, salmon lightest. And salmon light, salmon lighter, salmon lightest. So we have a very flexible color palette finalized. So now we have all of the main elements we need to start putting together some work. But we have a couple things we want to do. We need to figure out, how do we use color? What are certain color combinations that work really well here, because we have a lot, and what color combinations will not be allowed. So in our brand standards guide, we're going to be able to show people good examples of color combinations with using our color palette. And we're going to show them color combinations they should not be using. So for example, these, putting all of these colors together, finding out this has really good readability and contrast, and these over here to the right, those color combinations are not working, because you have a really flexible color palette, but people can take advantage of that and combine colors that should not be combined. And this is a good exploration for ourselves to figure out what color combinations are going to work. So when we start doing design work, we'll already have 10 color combinations that we can use very quickly to put certain typography and backgrounds together. So now it's time to move on to something really important, because we have all the basic design elements. As a graphic designer, we'd be ready to go, but we're trying to offer more than just graphic design. I would love to help the client write their brand language.